Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here. I hope you're doing well, and if you're not, I hope you are soon. Okay, today on the Dungeon Dive, we are taking another look at Dungeon Quest. But the exciting thing is that we are taking a look at 3 brand new expansions that are coming out for Dungeon Quest soon. So these 3 expansions are called the Events expansion, the Undead Merchant expansion, and the Haunted Halls expansion. And each of these expansions was made by a Dungeon Dive viewer, and they will be available soon on his Etsy shop. So I'll be sure to post a link to the Etsy shop below. And he sent these to me to take a look at them. So these decks are specifically made for the Fantasy Flight version of Dungeon Quest. And this is actually my favorite version of Dungeon Quest to play. I love the old version. I have everything for it. And it's great. I love the art, but this version I think is the better game. And this is the version that I play the most. And this is the version that I have the most fun when I am playing. So for those of you who don't know, Dungeon Quest is kind of a prototypical competitive dungeon crawl where each player is playing as a hero and they are moving through the castle here. What is it called? Dragonfire Castle, I think. And drawing tiles and trying to get to the center of the board to face off against a dragon, to get loot, and then to escape. And that is always easier said than done because the death rate in Dungeon Quest is quite high. At sunrise, the ancient doors open and invite you to collect what wealth you can, but beware, within the dungeon lurks terrible creatures and deadly traps, ready to destroy the unwary. And if you should fail to reach an exit by the time the sun sets, the doors will close and there will be no escaping the wrath of Dragon Lord Caladra. Dragon Quest Revised Edition is a board game of dungeon delving for 1 to 4 brave players. Each player controls a hero armed with unique abilities, magical runes of power, and plenty of foolhardy courage to help him face the hordes of Dragonfire Dungeon. Any heroes fortunate enough to find the central treasure chamber can attempt to plunder its riches, but if they are too greedy or linger too long, Dragon Lord Caladra will awake. So just a fantastic version of the old Games Workshop game, and I think an old Swedish game. I've never actually seen the original version. I think it was a Swedish game that Games Workshop brought over and helped to develop to the version that most of us play and most of us remember. But so in this game here, I am playing as Brother Girin. And in the revised edition, of course, the heroes will have more stats. So we have strength, agility, defense, I think that's called, armor, and luck. And so Brother Girin's best stat there is luck. When taking a attribute test, and there are quite a few attribute tests in this version of the game, you roll 2d6 and you want to meet or roll under your attribute. So it's a roll low system. So Brother Girin, needless to say, won't be opening too many portcullises because he only has a strength of 3. So I would need to roll a 3 or lower on 2d6, making that very difficult. However, one of the things that the revised edition or the Fantasy Flight edition does add are these determination tokens. And this is something that I really like. It's a currency that you can spend to subtract 1 from your dice. And every time you fail a test, you actually get a point of determination to help you on subsequent tests. I think that is a fantastic addition to Dungeon Quest. Additionally, one of Brother Girin's powers is I can suffer a wound, and he can take 13 wounds before he dies. I can suffer a wound to gain 3 determination tokens. So that's really cool. I can spend my wounds like a currency to gain another currency in order to spend to help me pass my tests. And then I also have a power for when I am facing off against the dragon in order to gain that treasure. So far, move the camera just a little bit here. So far, Brother Girin has had kind of a rough time, but not too rough. As many players know, it is very possible in this game to die on the first turn because you could move into one spot, find a trap, fall into it, and die. But Brother Garen here, he entered into this chamber here, and there's kind of a wooden bridge, and he fell off and entered into the catacombs. So the Fantasy Flight version includes the catacombs expansion built in. And so this is a yo dog, I heard you like dungeons situation, because this is a dungeon within a dungeon. Underneath all of these tiles that you will be exploring is another dungeon. And this dungeon, you don't explore tile by tile, you explore card by card. And this can be a very deadly catacombs here where you can face off, your torch can go out and you can get lost. You can find a lot of empty halls or some very powerful creatures or some really good treasure. And so he made it up to about here. When you exit a catacomb, you total up how many cards you've explored. You move in that direction. Then you turn your marker, and then you will move a random number of spaces, and that's where you come out. However, I came up against a Naga that was blocking my path, so I had to come back. So I moved forward through the catacombs. I came back here. I entered here. That should not be there. And then I came here and I searched and found some treasure. And then there was a portcullis there, which, of course, Brother Garen was not very good at opening. I moved into this rotating room. A rotating room moves 180 degrees. So my passage this way is blocked. And so remember, in this game, you have to get to the treasure chamber and escape. And that's the important part, is escaping. I moved forward here and explored this dungeon tile here, which also has, I can descend down into the catacombs from this tile if I so choose. And then I drew this tile with a portcullis, and so he is not going to go that way. He is going to proceed to go forward. So we'll play a couple turns to show you how this game plays, and we'll also talk about the new expansions. So these new expansions are really cool, and they definitely do focus on the competitive mode of this game, because really at its core, DungeonQuest is a competitive game, but I also have a lot of fun playing it solo. And I have already adapted one of the competitive expansions to be played solo, and I think it's working pretty well, and it's been a lot of fun. So let's talk about the events deck first. So the events deck is the largest expansion. I'm not sure exactly how many cards it is, but it's a good amount. We have about that many cards there, so I don't know, 40 or so event cards, and these are all random events. And the rules say that every turn you draw a random event. For me, that's a little bit too much, so I'm kind of playing every other turn. So as some of you may know, this game has a timer, and it's the sun timer, so it's sun up and sun down. When the sun gets all the way to the sun down spaces, there is a chance that the dungeon's doors will close, and so you have to escape the dungeon before that happens. And so as you can see, they're kind of offset, the spaces. I'm playing that every time the sun moves to one of the upper rows, then I draw a random event card. So the random events that I have had so far, to give you an idea of what you can expect in this expansion, are dark whispers. You hear a whisper as if it were right next to your ear, yet you see nothing. It wants to play a game with you. It tells you not to worry. The stakes aren't all that high. All players must pass a luck attribute test. If failed, they discard a loot or merchant card. Now, a merchant card is another expansion. So these expansions do work in tandem. I'm not sure if he's selling them together or separately. I didn't get that piece of information, so you'll have to check the Etsy shop. But luckily, Brother Garen here, of course, his luck is 9, so I figured, I'll easily pass that. And what did I roll? I ended up rolling a 12, passing my best or failing my best attribute test. And so I had to discard one of my loot cards. And right now I have a treasure chest, which I found in the catacombs, and that's going to be worth some treasure when I get out. And I also have 120 coins. And then recently, when I was searching a corpse, I found a rope that will help me escape pit traps. I also have a Rune of Insight. So the Fantasy Flight version exchanged the rings in the original version for runes to kind of bring it in line with their Terranoth, their rune-bound games there. So we also found a fair trade. A goblin approaches you, though he isn't hostile. He says he's a healer and he wants to trade. Players may discard any amount of determination tokens. For each token discarded, heal a wound. So a way to heal. So the events aren't all bad. Some of them are good. And then we also have the unseen path. The dungeon lights up and you can see things you weren't able to before. You see a hallway to a room that you could have missed normally. During your next turn, if a player moves, they draw 2 chamber tiles and choose one to play and discard the other. I did not take advantage of that because during that turn I searched. And then also the first event here that I faced was the flooded halls. The sound of rushing water gets louder. You feel a cold dampness submerge your ankles and it's rising rapidly. All players must pass an agility attribute test. If failed, they move into the chamber tile they were last in. If possible, ignore its effects. So I actually was in the catacombs when I drew this. So you don't move from tile to tile in the catacombs. So I just ignored that. So that is the events expansion. Really cool. It just adds a nice little wrinkle. And I'm drawing a card at the top of every other turn. And it's been a lot of fun. The second expansion we'll take a look at real quick is the Undead Merchant. So this is a merchant that you can visit anytime you draw a tile that has a search token, or a search icon, I should say. Instead of searching that room, you can summon the Undead Merchant and he will come and he will offer you his wares. And these are all kind of tailor-made for your journey back, for your escape route. And these should help you escape. And you have to spend your loot and your treasure in order to get these. Every time you summon the Undead Merchant, you draw 3 cards, and these are the items that he has on offer. Okay, so we might find the Keeper's Kiss. Gain +1 to all of your attributes. Hey, that's great. Gain +5 max health. Players adjacent to you must pass an armor attribute test at the end of their status phase or take 3 wounds. They are at -1 armor and cannot use determination tokens. Holy crap, that is crazy. I've not seen that one yet. That's super cool. But it also costs 2,400 gold worth of treasure or loot. And at the end of the game, it is worth 800. So that's a pretty big trade-off. But if you're having a really competitive game, where a lot of people are surviving, you might want to pick that up. We also have the Scroll of Vigor. It costs 200. It's worth 25 for your victory points at the end. Discard at the end of your status phase, that's your first phase, to heal yourself up to 5 wounds, or force another player within 3 spaces of you to take 3 wounds. If this would kill them, they are instead brought to 1 health. Interesting. And then we also have a Battered Shield. This thing looks like it has seen hell. Whenever you take a wound, you take half that many wounds rounded down. You cannot take less than 1 wound. So just ways to survive. And there are all kinds of different things that you can buy from this Undead Merchant. Ritual daggers, titanium bands, Scroll of Breeze, a Ring of Faith, a Seeker's Compass. There are duplicates. Leather boots, a Blade of Light, Edge of Time, the Ring of Reflection. So yeah, just a really cool loot deck. It's really fun to have the chance to buy items from a merchant in this game. And in order to buy these, you do need to visit the chamber first. I don't know if these would really play well solo unless you're playing multiple heroes solo. So this is the deck that when I play solo, I will probably use the least amount of times. And then finally, we have this really interesting expansion, and that is called the Haunted Halls. And this allows dead characters to continue playing. So using this expansion, when a character dies, they become a spirit. Now, I am using one of these little minion spirit minis here from Defenders of the Realm, which we are going to be taking a look at soon as my ghost there. But you would just use your normal mini or your token or whatever. And as a spirit, you can move through the halls, haunting the other players and trying to kill them, trying to stop them from exiting the castle. So you can prevent players from winning. That is super cool. This expansion has 2 decks of cards. We have the Stalk deck and the Haunt deck. The stock deck you draw when it's your turn, and that tells you how many spaces you can move. Now, according to the rules and according to the competitive rules, the competitive nature of this expansion, the spirits can only move on pre-established routes. They can only move from the tiles, following the path of the tiles, unless they have a teleport card, which then they can move through walls. And then as they move, they want to get close to the hero. And when they do, they would draw a haunt card, and that haunt card will tell them how many wounds they can do to that hero. However, when the spirit lands on the player, that player has a chance to dispel the spirit. And you basically roll your best stat. So most of the characters in this game have one stat that's at a 9. So we have Hugo the Glorious. His best stat is that armor. We have Tatiana. Her best stat is agility. We have Kreutzbeck. His best stat is strength. And then here we have Lindell, who only has a 6. That as his best stat. And we have Chalara and Brightblaze, and their best stat combined is either luck or agility. So to dispel, you have to roll, of course, roll low, roll your stat or under. And if you do, that spirit is dispelled. You don't take any damage, and they go back to their starting tower to start their haunting process again. However, I have been adapting this as a solo play to make this spirit. It's kind of like this spirit of like Jaws is stalking this dungeon. And so at the end of my turn, the spirit has a turn, the haunt has a turn, and they start in their tower. And I draw a stalking card, and I move that many spaces towards my character. And because they're a spirit, I'm saying that they can move freely in the dungeon. They don't have to follow any path. However, if my character is in the catacombs, they don't draw a card and they stay in place. Now, some of the stalking cards, the player could keep, and if they keep it, then they can spend it to do something extra during the haunt phase. If I ever draw one of those as my solo mode, I'm keeping it just on the table here. And then if I ever do get to haunt, then I can do whatever is on that card. And so this has been a lot of fun because I love this pressure of this spirit getting closer and closer to my hero. And then he finally enters the chamber, and I roll to dispel. And I would have failed there, a 10, and my luck is 9. But I could spend a point of determination to lower that to a 9, and I burst this force of magic from my hands and dispel the haunt back to its tower. And then he continues to haunt me on the next turn. It's been a lot of fun. So it's pretty easy to adapt this expansion to solo play, and I highly recommend it because it is fun. So let's take a couple turns right now. I'm at the bottom of a turn, and we're about ready to have an event. And so I am here, and it's at my status phase. So we'll move the sun tracker down 1. Now we're in the top row, so I will draw the next event card. And this is possession. You feel a sharp pain on the top of your head as horns sprout from your scalp. Your teeth feel sharp. Fight this corruption. All players must pass a strength attribute test. No, my strength is 3. If failed, they go to hell. They enter the catacombs on their next action phase. Okay, so I have 3 points of determination. Let me move my character card over here. So effectively, my strength is a 6. I think I'm going to take a point of damage, and so that will bring me to 5 wounds. So I'm getting pretty close to being dead here, but that will also give me 3 more points of determination because I really don't want to go back down into the catacombs right now. So we need to do a strength test to stop from being possessed. We need to use our strength to battle this demon. And what am I going to roll here? All right, an 8. So I completely missed that. So I need to get down. I need to discard 5 of these. Ouch. 3, 4, 5. So I am discarding 5 of these determination tokens to pass that test. And so I do not become possessed by that demon. Okay, so now it is my turn. And now I can either search this room or I can explore. I'm going to search the room, of course. So we go to our search deck and we draw the top card on the search deck, and we have a secret door. You may immediately move to any adjacent space. If the space is unexplored, place a chamber tile as normal. If you cannot encounter a monster, you cannot escape. Or if you encounter a monster, you cannot escape. Okay, so we have find a secret door. So I'm going to go ahead and move there. And let's draw a new tile out of the Crown Royale bag, of course, because that is an unofficial rule. The most important rule of Dungeon Quest is all of your tiles must be in a Crown Royale bag. And what do we have here? Okay, so we have a dungeon chamber with a whole bunch of doors there. We'll put that there. I will move one forward. And then we have to draw a dungeon card. So we can go to our dungeon deck. And we find a dead adventurer. You may loot the body for treasure. If you choose to, draw one corpse card. Of course, we're going to check the corpse deck because we have a corpse deck, because this game has a corpse deck. And we find another rope. All right, so I will go ahead and take that rope. Okay, so that was the end of Brother Garen's turn. Now it's the Haunt's turn. I think the Haunt was there. So I draw my stock card. Move one space. Okay, so I will move one space closer. And then keep this card. You may discard this card before a living player's action phase to force them to exit the catacombs. Interesting. That's really cool. So because the players are safe from the spirits in the catacombs, the spirit can actually force them to leave the catacombs. So if I ever go to the catacombs, I will play this card on myself and force me to exit. That is super cool. I love that. What a neat expansion. This is so cool. I love getting these new fan-made expansions for these older games. I think that is super cool. Okay, so now I am in this chamber here. Next, we have to tick the sun down again, and now I need to move or I can search. A door, if a player attempts to move through a door space, he draws one door card and then follows its instructions. Okay, let's draw a door card. So I'm going to attempt to move here. The first thing I do is we go to our door deck and we draw the top card here. It's a spirit trap. Roll one die and suffer a number of wounds equal to the result. Remain in your current chamber. Ouch. All right. Okay, so we're going to roll a d6 and 4 wounds. Ouch. Okay, so that brings me to 9 wounds. All right, so I am getting very, very close to being dead here. And I have to stay there so I can do nothing. So now it is the spirit's turn again. And he can move up to 2 spaces. All living players exit the catacombs during their next phase if able. Okay, so 2 spaces. 1, 2. The spirit is getting closer. I can feel its evil presence coming. And now we're going to move the sun counter. We're in the top row, so we will draw another event deck. It would be really nice to get a way to heal right now. Mine, shiny, I want it, stay back or get hurt. All players each roll 2d6. Whoever rolls the highest keeps this card. Ties are re-rolled until there is a victor. Discard this card at any time to heal 3 wounds. Yes, okay, since I am the only player, I'm going to keep this card. I guess I could roll. I could do a roll off, but you know what? We're solo. We're going to cheat. We're just going to take this card and I'm going to discard it to heal 3 wounds. That is super cool. Okay, so that was the event phase. So now it is my turn again. I'm going to attempt to go through this door, this door again there. And we'll go back to our door deck. And what do we find? Dang it. A spear trap. Oh my God, you think I would have learned. Okay, so that's 2 times. Brother Garen does not learn. He's a wizard who doesn't learn. And so I failed. I went through that spear trap again. I'm going to take d6 damage. Ooh, 6 damage. That brings him to 12. Ouch. Okay, so he has 1 hit point left. Brother Garen, I think, yeah, this is not looking good for him. Nothing I really could have done. You can't use determination. There's no attribute test. I don't really have, let's see, what do I have here? Discard at the end of your action phase to discard all search tokens. Nope, that just helps me search. All right, well, it is the spirit's turn again, and move up to 3 spaces or teleport up to 2. So the difference when you're a spirit, when you're playing the competitive mode, move means you have to follow a path. Teleport means you can move through doors and walls and stuff. So we're going to move 3. 1, 2, 3. The spirit of death is getting closer and closer. And Brother Garen only has 1 hit point left. Okay, so now we're going to move the sun token down. And you know what? For comical effect, Brother Giron is going to try that door one more time. He's going to move here. Spear traps be damned. And the door is jammed. Great. The door does not open. Remain in your current chamber. Oh, I love this game. It's so good. Okay, so now we're in the current chamber here. And we will draw our haunt card, move one space, or teleport one space. I will move one space. So the next turn, he's going to move into that chamber, unless I can get here. And so we're at the top of the next round here. We will draw an event card. Nothing happens. The floor is cracked and mossy. The walls are tight and dripping from moisture. The humidity is choking you. Snap out of it. Focus on the task at hand and not insignificant details. Nothing happens. Okay, so the top of my turn. Brother Giron is really determined to get through that door now because that door has been the bane of his adventure, and the door is jammed. Oh, Brother Giron, will you ever learn? This is his fault, not mine. And then now it is the haunt's turn. Boom, move up to 2 spaces. The haunt comes to this door, and now there is a face-off here. And so I need to roll a 9 or under, or else I take damage. And a 6. All right, so Brother Giron was able to dispel the spirit back to its chamber there. And then let's play one more turn and see if Brother Giron can get through that damn door. The door opens. Finally, the door opens. Move into the adjacent chamber. I really, really, really hope that this is a bottomless pit. That would be the greatest thing that ever happened to in my gaming life. What do we have? No, not the bottomless pit, but it is a portcullis. So he's stuck anyways because he has a strength of 3. I probably can't go through that. And I rolled an 8. So Brother Giron is not doing too well, but I think that's going to be the end of this video here. I hope you enjoyed just that brief little example of how to use some of these new expansions in your games of Dungeon Quest. Again, these will be available through the Etsy shop, and I'll post a link below. I'm not sure if they're available right now as of, what is it, November something, 20 something. But he said they will be available soon. And again, those are Haunted Halls, the Undead Merchant, and also the Events deck. I do highly recommend these, especially if you already have the Fantasy Flight version of Dungeon Quest. That probably means that you really love the game. And this just adds so much more. They're really high quality cards. He did a fantastic job. This is awesome. This is one of my favorite fan expansions I've ever seen. Unfortunately, this version of Dungeon Quest is getting very expensive. Actually, all versions of Dungeon Quest are getting very expensive. I would love to see this come back into print, especially this revised edition that comes with everything. And I think it has the best rules and the best fun, the best interaction with the game and the other players and stuff. So, all right, you guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed this Dungeon Quest video. We will talk to you later. Bye-bye.